Beautiful, beautiful. And we are so privileged to have Rabbi Ted here, another person who's sharing his gift with us. Time of gratitude. What a day of gratitude. So Rabbi Ted is going to share with us his gifts of Judaism through worship, teaching, counseling, and speaking, appreciating for each of us our own authentic self. So he developed a model of a meditative synagogue, both in Los Angeles when he first began, and then he moved here in Seattle in the 1990s, and again founded and implemented a meditative synagogue and was senior minister for many years. Then at the end of 2009, he finished that part of his life. And now he's devoting his time to writing, teaching, spiritual counseling, and interfaith work. So we get to be the benefits of the depth of his wisdom and understanding. Now he's just today debuting a meditative CD. So know that you can get this from him in the lobby today. But for now, let's just relish and warmly welcome this dear, thoughtful, and funny man, Rabbi Ted.
Thank you. I love being here. I love being here with you, with Jonathan and Beverly and Jal. The only problem is this stage. The second time I was here, I wore a pedometer. So I'll tell you a story. Once there was a guy named Abraham. Actually, he wasn't named Abraham. He was named Abram, in Hebrew, Avram. He didn't get his name changed to Abraham until he was 99 years old. But nobody calls him Abram. Everybody calls him Abraham, even at the very beginning. Abraham, you know, becomes a focus for the three Abrahamic faiths. You know, for Judaism, he is the first of the three patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He's like a father of faith. For Christianity, he is a knight of faith, you know, a person of great faith. For Islam, he is the first Muslim. I was thinking, it's good that Abraham's not alive anymore, because if he was, he would be having such an identity crisis. But whatever, there's power in that story. And as far as I'm concerned, if you read the Bible literally, you missed the whole thing. It's almost like if we read our lives literally, we miss the whole thing. You know, if we keep it on a rational level. So the 12th chapter of the book of Genesis, as I'm sure all of you know, begins with God calling to Abram, God calling to Abraham. Like he doesn't say, hello. He doesn't say, I'm God. He doesn't, there's no introduction. It's just, and the Eternal One calls to Abraham as if Abraham goes, okay, You know, the cell phone rings. Yeah, this is God. And out of the blue, he hears, or the storyteller relates, Lech lecha, an emphatic get you out. What a first word. You know, what kind of word is going to unfold to you? It's going to be get out. Lech lecha me'artz, get out of your land, your country, you know. Get out of the place of your birth and get out of your father's house, get out of your parents' house to the land that I will show you. Now, in many ways, that's a paradigm for the spiritual call. Like, one has to get out of the ordinary. Get out of that which is already programmed. Get out of the scripts. Get out of the roles. Get out of the rituals. To a land that I'll show you. What? Talk about faith. Oh, sure. I'll pick up and go and trust that you'll show me something. It's a fascinating, fascinating challenge. In the story, of course, Abraham just picks up, says goodbye to everybody, and leaves. And many of us have done the same thing, you know, where, I don't know how many of you, but certainly I don't live anywhere near where I grew up. I actually got as far away as I could in the country. But there's an interesting thing about the Hebrew. Lech lecha, which is the first thing said, which is translated as an emphatic get out, get you out. When read literally, halach means to walk. Lech is the command form. Walk, go. Lecha, which can be used as an emphasis, actually means to yourself. What Abraham hears, and I suspect that what all of us hear, when that call awakens, is leave the ordinary, leave the scripted, leave the ritual, leave the roles, and go to yourself. Well, that's an interesting issue, because who is our self? Most of us feel that we are in need of learning something that someone else might have, but we don't. And so we do with spiritual learning the same thing we do with all kinds of learning, and that is, where can I find a good book? Where can I find a good teacher? Where can I find a good community? Seeking in the outside. The difficulty is that spiritual learning, unlike all other kinds of learning, actually comes from the inside. It's like we already came with all that. It's built in. So anybody who says to you, I can make you spiritual, run the other way. But there's a problem. For those of you, how many people no longer live where they grew up? How many people have left their parents' house? Yeah, well. Now, I don't know about you, but one of the problems is that I have left, actually several times, but I accidentally took myself with me. And I don't know how it is with you, but you may have accidentally taken yourselves with you. And when we take ourselves with us, no matter how different the outer scenery is, we start recreating some of the same things that we left. It's just terrific. I mean, it's horrible, but it's amazing. Because what we fail to appreciate is this remarkable construction in which we live. It's like a safe box, a safe cage, a safe haven. It depends on how you look at it. Each and every one of us, when we were growing, created a self, a personality, an ego, with which to survive in the environment we found ourselves. Maybe we were in an environment that said, you got to be happy all the time. Maybe we're in an environment that said, don't show your feelings. Maybe we're in an environment that says, don't show your anger. Maybe we're in an environment that says, be quiet. Maybe we're in an environment that says, be loud. Whatever it is, we develop a way of surviving in that environment. We are remarkably creative beings. The problem is nobody actually told us when we left that environment that we needed to let go of that construction and see what comes next. So lo and behold, we take our box, we take our safe haven, we take our cage with us. Awareness. Awareness follows distraction, disturbance. When something happens in the environment that's disturbing, that's where our attention goes, right? A loud noise happens, that got my attention. So whatever else is happening, it goes over there. Normally, what gets our attention in one way or another is that which is threatening to our self-esteem, threatening to our sense of self-righteousness, threatening to our sense of how things should work, right? It's like somebody cutting us off in the freeway. It's like somebody saying things about us that we feel are untrue and hurtful. There's just things that happen all the time. Talk about the freeway not only cutting off, but the person who's in front of us going 35 miles an hour on the freeway. Just think of what your thing is, where the disturbance gets the attention. I told the first service that the only thing I think is more proficient, more efficient in Southern California than here is how people get on freeways. Here, a lot of people like to stop. Whenever something disturbs us, whenever something threatens to bring up pain, what do? We try to fix it. Oh, we try to engage in conversation, or we withdraw, or we move. And every time we do that, we just solidify this box, this cage, this haven that we construct around ourselves by what we will accept and what we won't accept. The call, the spiritual call, just wrecks all of that. Because it's essentially saying, look, all that is the way we have limited ourselves. We have limited ourselves and we keep ourselves stuck in certain patterns. You ever wake up in the middle of the night and find yourself having a conversation with someone with whom you've had a disagreement and it might have been years ago, and you now are repeating things you'd like to say? If you could only say this, it would fix it and everything would be okay. It's amazing to watch. So yes, go to yourself from all your programming. But how do you do that? How do you do that and not just get captured, recaptured in the safety that we have created around us by our self-definitions, by the things that make us comfortable and by the things that make us uncomfortable? Avoid pain at any cost. Well, we do that by noticing what's behind, what's before, what's beyond the box. Look, each and every one of you is in one way or another hearing what I'm saying. Used to be studies that would say that an audience usually hears somewhere around 20% of what's being spoken. I always wonder which 20% are they getting now? Who's listening? Who's listening? No, thank you. That was just great and also horrible, because only one hand went up. Okay, besides me right now, there's someone else talking. There's someone talking inside your head right now. And I wonder if you can hear what that voice is saying. I mean, just take a minute. There's somebody talking in there, always talking, commenting on things that are happening, commenting on something that catches your attention, making judgments, talking about yourself, talking about what you're wearing, talk about how you look. Gee, I really should be, what? Do you hear it? All of us have a voice. One of the things that meditation's good for is it allows us to quiet down enough to start listening to the voice that's going on all the time. Chances are, if we had a friend who would talk to us the way our voice inside talks to us, we wouldn't stay with them very long. But when you're aware of the voice, who is listening? Who's the one listening? The voice is the voice of the mind. That's part of what the mind does. All of you know that. Sometimes we think we're going to stop it. The only way you stop it is by having deep anesthesia or getting dead. It's what the mind does. To the degree to which we are captured by it changes. Who's the one listening? The one listening is identifiable by something that you have had all your life, something that you've had all your life and something that has never changed, something we all have. It's something that's the same as it always was forever, and it's the same as it always will be. It's the same as it was when I was a kid, it's the same right now, and it's the same tomorrow. And that's the place from which one listens, because what you have in common with every human being is this: silence. the silence you taste is the same silence. When we let go of the constructs we make, when we let go of trying to push things around in the outer world, we have the opportunity to become aware of what's behind that. What's behind that? And what's behind that is silence. All pervasive, never-ending, unlimited. In Jewish tradition, you know, it's called Ein Sof, without end. You can't talk about it. I love people who talk about it. It's nothing. So we amuse ourselves by talking to each other about nothing. Talk about silence. No, I don't think so. Taste silence. Silence is the awareness that is flowing through before it attaches to an object. It reflects that ultimate reality that is not yet thingness. So it is nothing in the sense of no thing. It is not yet limited. So on the freeway, or in the middle of the night when the conversations rise, we are invited to move behind the conversation. Not to fight it, to acknowledge it and let it go in the sense of what's next. What it would look like if we were without the protection of our haven and of our cage and of our box of ego. What it would look like is we wouldn't be looking at the world and judging it every minute. That's good, that's bad. We would be available for what's happening in the moment. Some of it would be pleasant and some of it would be unpleasant. Some of it would be joyful and some of it would be painful, because that's how it is here. But what we tend to do when we're not sitting in that place as witness, what we tend to do is get grabbed into old scripts, old hurts, old pains. And it takes us totally away from being present in the moment. All kinds of stuff is going on. We don't know it because we're doing our thing. We're having conversations with people. We're going into old places of hurt and trying to figure out, how do we fix them? What if you can't fix it? What if you're just going to let it go? There's always going to be stuff. In fact, this is the essence of spiritual practice. A lot of times we think of spiritual practice as something we do, like I'll do 20 minutes of meditation in the morning and 20 minutes of meditation in the afternoon. That's my spiritual practice, and that's great. But true spiritual practice happens all the time. And it's not work, it's living. The universe will always present to us what is in need of blessing. Another way of saying that, the universe will always present to us something that will disturb us. We handle one thing, then just go out and you'll see, if you just pay attention. And that calls our attention. And we can just fall right into it, or we can go, oh, yeah. And move back to a quiet place and go, that's just another thought. That's just another object. It's not who I am. That's not who I am. The biggest problem in spiritual practice is us. We keep thinking that we need to get somewhere. And the somewhere we need to get is here. Here. Wherever here is at any given moment, that's the only place to get. Here. And here's the toughest thing. The single most powerful thing that keeps us from being present in the moment, that keeps us from being here, that keeps us from opening our hearts and from opening our consciousness to the greater awareness, are our grievances. We define ourselves by our grievances. If you want to take a community and gather people together, create solidity quickly, the best way to do it is to agree upon a common enemy. Draws people together most quickly, most powerfully. Well, outside, inside. That's how we focus our attention most. Boy, it's amazing. And none of us is free of that. I mean, if we really pay attention to what are we doing with our awareness? And there's only one answer to the definition by grievance. And that's love. We define ourselves by our grievance because we have refused to step into a space where we are willing to love ourselves as we are right now. It's the hardest thing in the world to do. Or it's the hardest thing for me to do and everybody else has an easy time. I don't know. But I have my list. I'll go through my list of if-onlys. Well, if then sorry, the only time that counts is now. You want to change? You really can't change by pushing something away. You really can't change by denying something. You can only change from embracing where you are right now. Oh, it's such a bummer. Really, ever think about it? In a relationship, people come together in love. Mostly when we separate with anger, with grievance. And with anger and grievance, we wind up carrying that person with us all the time. The only way we can let go is through love. If my heart is open to you, it doesn't mean I have to live with you anymore. But I don't have to close my heart, because the consequence of closing my heart is I return to the construction of my haven, my box, my cage. The ego would like to know what's happening next. And so it restricts possibilities. How the hell would I know what happens next? I'll have to see. Really? What's going to happen next minute? Oh, I'll have to see. Imagine living that way. Not going into moments of pain, but not staying there. Not denying it, just letting it flow through you. The model is Aikido, you know, where one steps out of the way and lets that energy flow. I accept it, I acknowledge it, I release it. What's next? There'll always be something next, unless we close down and focus on it. So that's what I'm interested in these days. And I'm calling it lucid living. You know what lucid dreaming is? Lucid dreaming is when you're dreaming and you know you're dreaming. Lucid living is when you're living and you know you're living. When you are not only involved in the world, but you are also witnessing from such a deep place. And both at the same time. So that as stuff calls, we can say hello and let it go and see what happens in the next minute. And always return for nourishment to the silence. I love being here with you. We are so blessed.